Perfect. We are live and ready to start day number 2 of the 5-day Free Your Best Self Challenge. So, what are we going to cover today? First, let's backtrack to what we covered yesterday. If you missed yesterday, go watch the recording. It is an awesome video talking about how to figure out what you're wanting, how to set goals in all aspects of your life. I gave some simple strategies, also a template of exactly what I use to set goals for personal goals, professional goals, spiritual goals, health goals, family goals, and relationship goals. So 6 buckets that I set goals, and I added a 7th one, a financial goal bucket, which I think is really important as well. So go ahead and grab that template, spend some time doing that either tonight, tomorrow morning, so that you have a clear idea, a North Star of what you're wanting. So today is probably the topic that I'm most passionate about talking about: how to prevent and reverse chronic disease. So if you haven't downloaded already the workbook that goes along with the training today and the rest of the training, I'm going to go ahead and put that in the comments for you. Awesome. Okay, so it's in the comments. Grab that. It'll help you take some guided notes. So let's just go over what we are going to cover today and then what we're going to be covering the rest of the week so you guys can block out your time. Today is the only day that we're doing 5 p.m. Every other day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're going to be doing back to 11 a.m. I did get some good questions that I'm going to answer at the end. I'll go ahead and add that sticker link in Instagram on my personal page. If you want to submit a question there, I would love to answer it in one of the later days. So today we're talking about preventing chronic disease. Tomorrow I'm going to take a deep dive into nutrition, debunk some of the nutrition myths that are out there, and give you a simple template to get started with nutrition. We're also going to have 2 of the performance dietitians that we have on our team: Brittany, who is a pro water skier as well as a CrossFit level 2 trainer, and Lorraine, who's a gym owner, CrossFit level 2 trainer, nutrition coach. Both of them are dietitians. They're going to come on and talk a little bit about sports nutrition at the end tomorrow. So if you have any sports nutrition questions, make sure to type them in the comments or in Instagram, send me a message, and we will make sure to get those answered for you. So that is what we're going to cover on Wednesday. Thursday, we're going to talk about 3 hacks to set up yourself for the best and healthiest version of yourself. And then Friday, we're going to wrap it up, kind of do a culmination of everything, talk about how to make health a way of life. All right. So let's get started. High level overview. If you've never seen this before, this is the Healthy Steps Nutrition Framework. And if I'm honest, when I started Healthy Steps Nutrition back in 2012, it was really just the nutrition pillar. I thought if I talked to people about nutrition, gave them a plan, sat them down, it was more like a fire hose of information. If I'm honest, if any of you guys were clients of ours back in 2012, I apologize for probably overwhelming you. But what happened over the past 12 years, 11 years is I realized, man, there's got to be a better way. We have to keep it simple, focus on one thing at a time. And really, my value to give to you is to provide accountability and support. And then when I started working with clients longer than just 3 months, 6 months, a year, I started realizing, man, if I'm not addressing sleep and stress management and support system, lifestyle, all these other factors, they're all truly influencing your nutrition decisions. And then when we look at a holistic approach and customize it for you, we're going to be able to help support you in a much greater way and help you be able to bridge the gap between how you're managing stress and the nutrition decisions, or even sleep and how sleep is impacting your nutrition and how your nutrition is impacting your sleep. If you're going to become the best and healthiest version of yourself in 2023, ultimately, we have to look at this holistic approach and build a plan that's realistic to you. But first, we're going to talk about nutrition because that is where we started with Healthy Steps Nutrition. We're going to take a deeper dive into it tomorrow, but I want to just give you some high level overview here. And if you're watching this recording, I'd love to hear where you're at with these percentages. Do you do better than most of the population, or are you about where everyone else is in the US if you're joining here from the US? So less than 10% of the US population eats 2 cups of vegetables per day. 2 cups, less than 10%. 90% of the population does not eat 2 cups of vegetables a day. That's 2 fistfuls. When we look at one of the recommendations that we have for healthy subs nutrition, the goal would be following the plate method for many of us. Half of our plate vegetables, quarter protein, quarter starch for lunch and dinner. And most of us don't get that in the entire day, the 2 cups. Super interesting. The other interesting statistic is 117 million people suffering from one or more chronic diseases is really related to improper nutrition and exercise. Now, in your workbook, the first question in there is, what is chronic disease? So I think it's important that we define it, right? We need to know, like, if we're talking today, big picture, how to prevent and reverse chronic disease, what is chronic disease? Chronic disease is defined as a condition that you require medical attention for a year or longer. Now, many of these chronic diseases are related to hypertension, uncontrolled blood sugar, diabetes, heart disease, a lot of things that a lot of times are preventable and reversible. When we look at the top 9 out of 10 leading causes of death in the United States, 9 of the 10 are either caused or worsened by imbalance of blood sugar. High elevated blood sugar for extended periods of time either causes or makes them worse, those top leading causes of disease and death in the United States, which is pretty interesting. So what does that mean for us? Well, what it means is we need to be focusing on what we can control, no matter where you are in the spectrum. And we'll talk about the chronic disease spectrum in a few minutes. Where you are, we can start moving to a place where you're in a better space. And what can you do to control that? Well, it really comes down to these things. Nutrition is the foundation of ultimate proper health. If we're fueling our body with proper nutrition, if we're eating not just the right calories and macronutrients, but quality of food, we're going to be able to set ourselves up for success. When we have quality sleep, when we look at the research between sleep and ultimate health, we need at least 7 hours. How many of us are actually getting that? So we talked about nutrition related to overall health. What do we talk about in regards to nutrition? Well, at Healthy Steps Nutrition, we have 3 core nutrition principles. And what these are the 3 things that are the driver and the foundation of every single place that we start with every single client. So no matter where you are, no matter what your food preferences are, we want to focus on whole foods first. What does that mean? We want things that come from the ground or the sea that aren't made in manufacturers. Why do we want that? Well, whole foods, if it's coming from the ground, it's going to be less processed. It's not going to have a ton of additives in there. It's going to be filled with vitamins, minerals, fiber, nutrients that we need, not only macronutrients, the nutrients that provide us calories, but the micronutrients, those vitamins and minerals. So what do we want to focus on? Whole foods first. Now, I don't just think, okay, go to Whole Foods and get whatever you want. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about let's eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, minimal added sugar. And how can we do that? Well, we can focus on something as simple as that plate method. Half of our plate vegetables, quarter protein, quarter starch. The next thing that we talk about is balance of macronutrients. So there are 3 macronutrients. Those are the nutrients that provide us calories. Now we have protein, which is the building blocks of muscle. We need protein. Protein helps us stay full, satisfied. It also helps with hormone regulation, immune function. There are so many things that we need protein. Protein is broken down into amino acids, and we can make some of them, but some of them we have to consume from our diet. We need to have protein. We have carbohydrates. That's our body's main source of fuel. That's what we run on energy levels. We want to make sure that we're having low glycemic. I have a question for you. If you guys are watching us live on Facebook or watching the recording, type in the comments, like, do you know what low glycemic? Have you heard of low glycemic before? Many people have heard about it. It was a buzzword for a while, but what does it actually mean? Well, there's a glycemic index, and it basically says how fast and how high and how long is your blood sugar going to go up when you eat a certain type of food? Now, carbohydrates is the biggest umbrella of food. There's a lot of different types of carbohydrates. You have bread, pasta, chips, cereal, rice, fruit, juice, sugar. All of the different types of sugar are all under this carbohydrate umbrella. Now, when I used to go and I used to travel around, my husband and I used to travel around to different CrossFit gyms. We would do these seminars, and at the end of the seminar, the first question that would be asked is like, okay, what about agave? What about raw nectar? What about sugar in the raw? All these different things. It all is going to have the same influence in your body. Your blood sugar is going to go up, and then that causes your pancreas to secrete something called insulin and lower your blood sugar. And what happens with people with chronic disease, going back to our chronic disease topic for today, what happens with people with chronic disease with prediabetes or diabetes is their pancreas either can't keep up with the amount of carbohydrates they consume. They're eating too much carbohydrates, and our pancreas is going on overdrive. And at some point, it just can't produce the amount of insulin your body needs to break the sugar down that's in your bloodstream and be able to have your tissues and cells absorb it. So what happens? Our blood sugar stays elevated. And how people get diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes is an elevated fasting blood sugar. Our body's not able to secrete insulin to break the sugar down. Now, there's a lot of different theories around blood sugar management, but here's what I will tell you is when you eat whole foods, when you pair protein, carbs, and fats together, when you focus on balance, your blood sugar is going to be more stable. And where I see the biggest breakdown in the healthcare system is around diabetes management and control. And if we go to chronic disease, the top leading causes of death in the United States, they're all 9 out of 10 are all related to unrelated blood sugar, either caused or worsened by uncontrolled blood sugar. So it is a huge problem in the United States. 60% of the US population has at least one chronic disease, 40% have two or more. There's a lot of chronic diseases that come in clumps. So when you have diabetes that's uncontrolled for a number of years, you start have tingling in your arms and your fingers and your toes, you start losing feeling. When I worked in the hospital, the one thing that was more frustrating than anything else was all centered around this blood sugar management, blood sugar control, what we were supposed to tell people about managing their diabetes. And I knew there was a better way. And that is one of the reasons why I left the hospital, because I didn't agree with what I had to tell people. And what I've seen working in private practice and even experimenting on myself, one of the things that we do at Healthy Steps Nutrition is we do continuous glucose monitoring with some of our clients. So if you are not diabetic, if you're not pre-diabetic, but you want to see how your body is handling certain foods and you want to see how the inside is working on your body, you can sign up for continuous glucose monitoring, where our dietitians can see in real time what is going on after you eat your food. You can also see it, and you can start understanding and correlating how you feel with what you eat and how your body is responding to different foods. If we want to prevent and reverse chronic disease, we need to understand the root causes of this. And a lot of it stems from not quality nutrition and overconsumption and not moving and not sleeping. All these things are leading to have such a population that's struggling with chronic disease. Third core principle that we have with Healthy Steps Nutrition is limiting the amount of processed junk and added sugar. The average American consumes 150 pounds of sugar per year. 150 pounds. It ends up being over 45 teaspoons a day. Do you know how much you should have a day? No more than 6 for women and 9 teaspoons for men. It is an exponential amount of sugar that we're over consuming every single day. And if you think about what's happening is companies know that when you eat certain foods, you are going to want to have more and more and crave more of them. So they keep pumping more sugar in there. Sugar is super addicting. It actually has been shown to be more addicting than many types of drugs. So What do we need to do? We need to break that cycle. We need to focus on whole foods first. We need to focus on balance, and we need to be mindful of what we're eating. I think, in my opinion, the reason why so many people fail New Year's resolutions, why they fail diets, why they are not successful long-term, research shows that 92% of people will fail New Year's resolutions by the end of January. 92%. Like, if we've got 100 people watching this, 8 of us are going to be successful by the end of January, reaching our New Year's resolutions. What? Why? Because we're trying to focus on too much at one time. But here's the deal. If we focus on one habit at a time, if we change one thing at a time, you look at that pillar of the healthy steps nutrition framework and you realize, okay, nutrition is something that I'm really struggling with. I need to dial that in. I'm going to focus on one thing related to my nutrition. I'm going to get consistent with that one thing. And then I'm going to add the next thing to the plate. We're going to be 80% successful to maintain that one thing over the course of a year. But when we focus on 2 things at one time, less than 30%, 3 things, less than 5% success rate. Now, I want you to think of some of the different diets that you've done. The average person has tried 7 to 8 diets before seeking a professional. Likely, if you're watching this, you've probably done a different type of diet. How many things did you try and change at one time when you did that? How many things did you try and change when you did that at one time? I'm going to venture to say if you were not successful, you were doing more than one thing at a time. So what should we do? We should keep it simple. Focus on balance. Look at your plate. And every time you have lunch or dinner, look and see, do I have vegetables on this plate? What should your plate look like? The ultimate goal is to be here. Half of our plate vegetables, quarter protein, quarter starch. It is so simple to do this when you're going out to eat, when you're at a restaurant, when you're at home. Half of our plate vegetables, quarter protein, quarter starch. Now, if you're like 90% of the population that doesn't have more than 2 cups of vegetables per day. So if you're in the 10% population that does 2 to 3 cups of vegetables per day, okay, great. Follow the plate method. If you're like 90% of the other population, my recommendation for you is don't start with the plate method. That's a lot of fiber. Your stomach might not feel super good to go from minimal fiber to a lot of fiber every single day. So start off with just a little bit of vegetables. Start off with 1 fistful, then move up to 2 and so on. So when we look at nutrition and know that we're going to take a deeper dive into nutrition tomorrow, but big picture here, focus on whole foods first. Look at your plate. Are we eating mostly whole foods? Second thing, focus on balance, pair protein, carbs, and fats together. When you pair those things together, it helps stabilize your blood sugar, helps keep you full and satisfied longer, which is really important if we're trying to eat more whole foods and trying to achieve weight loss goals or health goals. We want to be able to have those things. So we talked about a little bit related to nutrition, but I think it's important for us to move into some of the other frameworks when it looks like we're looking at preventing and reversing chronic disease, because there's other pieces of the puzzle that come into play. And one of those pieces of the puzzle is stress management. So what does that look like? How should we be managing stress? I think before we dive into it, it's important to think about, how does stress impact overall health? Well, research shows that anxiety and depression has increased drastically post-pandemic. Anxiety disorders are one of the most common mental health disorders, and it's 25% increase in the past couple of years. That's a lot of people that are struggling. And what's interesting is there's even more kids that are struggling now than ever. Now, what can we do to help us feel better and focus on what we can control and get into a better headspace? You know, when you look at stress overall, short-term stress is actually a good thing. It helps to short-term stress actually can help boost your immune system. Your body releases adrenaline, your heart rate increases. Let's say someone slams on their brake right in front of you. If you imagine someone slams on your brake and you're driving, what do? Your heart rate starts to go, your blood pressure might go up. Your body is in this fight or flight mode. It increases your metabolic rate really quickly to help you get out of a dangerous situation. But what happens with stress long-term is that our body starts to adapt. Our body starts to increase production and we start to have more cortisol. Cortisol is our stress hormone. Cortisol causes our body to store fat. We also have increased glucose levels, decreased glucose sensitivity. So our body, our glucose levels stay higher longer. And our immune system's actually suppressed with long-term stress. So if we're stressed for a long period of time and our body's not able to maintain that for an extensive period of time. So what do we need to do? We need to get our stress management under control. How do we do that? Well, one of the books that I read that has truly transformed some of the pieces in how we address mindset at Healthy Steps Nutrition is this book called Soundtracks. And it's by my friend and 8-time bestselling author, Jon Acuff. If you have not listened to this podcast with him, we released a podcast last week on Wednesday on goal setting, on motivation, on overthinking. He is super funny guy, CrossFit fanatic. This is a great book, Soundtracks. Go listen to the Nutrition Made Simple podcast, and then you can decide if you want to invest in the book. But I think it's a really, really good book. He talks about how to overcome overthinking. I think the first thing that we need to think about is maybe you're thinking, Nicole, I don't struggle with overthinking. Well, maybe you do. What if you send me a text message and then you see the bubbles pop up and then I don't respond, which might happen often. What do you start coming up with a reason why the bubbles popped up and then why I didn't respond? Do you start thinking about, oh man, did I say that right? Did I do something wrong? What happened there? Do you start overthinking? Have you ever reread an email? Most of us, and he did a research study with over 10,000 people, 99.5% of people overthink. So what do we need to do? We need to recognize the soundtracks, and repetitive thoughts is what he calls soundtracks. So those repetitive thoughts that you have, that you think about, and they're based on past experiences or past thought patterns, those he calls soundtracks. And we need to recognize those first. And we need to ask ourselves, is this true? Right? Is this true? Okay. If it is true, then we need to move on to the next one. Should we retire it? Should we try to figure out a way of what we want to believe instead and repeat that over and over again? How do we decide that? Well, we need to then decide, okay, is this kind? Is this helpful? If it's true, but if it's not kind and helpful, is it helpful that we keep thinking about it? Probably not. Right? So we want to retire. How do we retire? Well, we start to think about what we want to believe instead, and we need to read those things out loud to ourselves and repeat them over and over and over again. So what would this look like? Well, let's say you play golf and you really struggle hitting driver, that first long shot, really struggle with that. If you really struggle over and over again, you might think, man, I just am terrible at hitting the driver. I'm terrible at hitting the driver. And then you think about that. And then every time you get up to the driver, the first shot, I think I'm saying all this right. The first shot, you hit it and you think about, oh, I'm not good at hitting this. Do you think you're going to hit it better? Is that helpful? Is that kind? Probably not, right? But if you want to believe instead, hey, I'm working on hitting my driver better. I'm working on my golf game. I'm working on my golf game. I'm working on hitting my driver better. That's going to help reframe, refocus in something that's a little bit more positive and helpful for us. This is an interesting thing to think about. And when you slow down and you start finding yourself to have negative thoughts, just recognizing that and being mindful of it is so unbelievably helpful. So if you take anything away from today, I challenge you to start just think about your thoughts and think about, is it kind? Is it true? Or is it helpful? And if it's not, all right, mindset, positive affirmations is something that you should focus on for yourself. All right, let's talk about sleep. There is a lot of research around sleep and optimal health. And there's a lot of research around people that don't get enough sleep and cortisol levels, stress levels. How many of you have had a terrible night's sleep or maybe 2 nights sleep in a row and you start feeling more stressed, or you start craving foods that you wouldn't normally crave? And then when you eat those foods, you're not really satisfied with whatever you ate. There is a neurological reason why all of that is happening. When we don't get enough sleep, cortisol levels are increased. Our ghrelin, which is the hormone that makes us hungry and says, hey, Nicole, you need to eat, is increased. And leptin, the hormone that makes us satisfied, is decreased when we don't get enough sleep. So we're more hungry, less stressed, and less satisfied when we don't get enough sleep. That is a terrible combination if you're trying to reach health and wellness goals. So what does research say? Less than 35% of people get 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night, which is not ideal. The recommendation is to get at least 7 hours of sleep, 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night for recommended health, restoration, and feeling better, recovery, all of that. 7 to 8 hours is the recommended amount. Now, obstructive sleep apnea. So that is something that more of the population is actually struggling with, but as your weight gets increased, if people struggle to get in that good quality sleep, they're having trouble breathing, essentially, is obstructive sleep apnea. Many people that are overweight will struggle with this. 30% of the population struggles with this. And the majority of the population is either overweight, considered overweight, or obese. When you are increased in weight, your likelihood of struggling with this increases. How to determine if you have this is you can go to your doctor, get a sleep study. Basically, they watch you sleep and they're able to watch your patterns and see how your breathing is during this. And if you are struggling with this, one of the things that they can give you is a cannula thing that you put in your nose, and it helps with the airflow to get into a good quality sleep and have the recovery, the restoration that you need. So something to definitely think about. I think one of the things that has been super interesting for me personally, and one of the things that my husband and I do is we wear a Whoop, which is a thing that tracks our sleep and recovery activity, all of that stuff. And one of the things that was interesting for me having the Whoop is addressing, okay, when I have a drink or two, how is the quality of my sleep? And research shows that if you are a woman, you have less than 1 drink for women, less than 2 drinks for men, decrease in 9% quality of sleep. I don't know if someone's having a drink and they have less than 1 glass of wine if you're a woman. Good for you, but it's still going to impact your sleep a little bit. 1 drink for women, 2 drinks for men, 24% decrease in quality of sleep. What's very interesting is more than 1 drink for women, more than 2 drinks for guys, decrease in by 39% in quality of sleep. 39%. Like that is a lot of decrease in quality sleep. So I challenge you to start thinking about, and if you wear a sleep tracker, Whoop's not the only option, but I can tell from the Whoop with how many disturbance I have and the quality of sleep that I get, even the recovery, it gives you a percentage recovery. If I drink alcohol, I am not my best in quality of sleep and not fully recovered the next day. So super interesting there. A lot of people who struggle to fall asleep or they wake up in the middle of the night, we teach this activity called box breathing. And this helps to calm your central nervous system, help you be able to get back on track and be able to fall asleep again. This has helped me so much. It's helped many of our clients with be able to just calm your nervous system down. So this would help with stress in a stressful situation, or also, and not or, also with getting to sleep and going back to sleep if you wake up in the middle of the night. So what box breathing is, you can think of like a box, okay? And we're going to focus on how long it takes us to breathe in, how long we hold it, how long it takes us to breathe out, how long we hold it. And it's 4 seconds each. So you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. So if you're watching us, for joining us live or even watching the recording, let's try it together. So we're ready, and we're going to breathe in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you just keep doing that over and over again. And what's interesting, what I found is that whatever woke me up or whatever I was thinking about that I couldn't go to sleep, when I'm focusing on the box breathing, I'm not able to think about anything else. I'm only focusing on that, and then you fall asleep. So I'd be curious. You guys will have to let me know if you struggle with sleep. Type in the comments, try it. Type in the comments and let me know how the box breathing goes for you. Even in a stressful situation, it calms your nervous system down and helps you be able to manage stress a little bit better. Support system. Now, one of the things that I started doing back in 2020 is we started interviewing gym owners and coaches and clients at gyms all around the world that are running our program. And what was interesting to hear between all of the people, no matter where they were in the world, it all came down to how they were able to lose 100, 200 pounds and maintain it. It came down to this piece, the support system. They had supportive people that were positive, encouraging people around them on a consistent basis. And what was interesting to me, we do a lot of employee wellness, specifically with construction companies at HSN HQ. And what was interesting to me is start to correlate the success of what happened in a construction company with the support system that people are around each other 8+ hours a day. It was super interesting. If you think about it, when you do employee wellness or you're doing a challenge with people that you're with 8-9 hours a day, if you're working in a company, everyone's doing it together, you're all a positive support system. Your support system is a huge piece of long-term success. So let's look at the research around this. Well, positive social communication, family members, friends, shown to reduce anxiety. Poor social support is linked to anxiety and depression. There's also some research around friends, siblings, spouses, and if you're around people, I'm not saying that you shouldn't hang around people that struggle with weight, but if you're constantly just hanging around people that struggle with weight, the research shows, I'm not making these numbers up, the research shows that you are more likely to, have some of those habits. And I think part of the reason is when you look at research of eating alone versus together, there's a significant increase in calorie consumption when you are together. And my husband worked at the fire department for a while. And I tell this story often because I think it's a great representation of eating in a family style and that type of environment. When I went and would go visit them in the fire department, they would all sit around the dinner table and they would have all the food in the center and they would just be talking and mindlessly eating and not even realize sometimes that they had 2 or 3 portions of something around the dinner table before they rushed off to get a call. They were so used to scarfing food down really quick and then just piling more on their plate, scarfing it down, that they didn't even realize how much they were consuming. Our brain is 15 minutes behind our belly. And if we're not paying attention to the food that we eat, we could over consume. So our social support system is really important. We're the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. I want to give you 2 stories of people. This is Mary over on the left here. She is a gym owner, a nutrition coach. She's absolutely amazing. She still shares her story often, but she's lost 200. She lost 200 pounds. And she and I talked, and she talked about how she got into a healthy routine with exercising and eating whole foods and balance. And she didn't follow some super restrictive diet, but a key piece for her was her mom was the support system for her to lose that weight and maintain it. Josh is in the financial department of the large construction company. He lost 100 pounds between the first challenge that we did in 2018 to a challenge that we wrapped up in 21. How did he do it? Well, he started focusing on more whole foods. He started exercising, sleep, and he had the support system from his employer, and all the people that were doing the challenge and maintaining those healthy habits after. Super, super interesting. So what I want you to think about, and when you are thinking about achieving what you are wanting, what we went over yesterday in all those aspects, personally, professionally, spiritually, with your health and wellness, your fitness, family, relationships, all of those areas, who are the people that you spend the most time with? Their values, what they're wanting, align with what you're wanting? Or is their lifestyle polar opposite that might not be the best fit for you to help support you in your journey? So think about it for a second. Who are the people that you surround yourself with? Do they have a positive mindset? Are they a positive influence? Do they speak life into you? Or do you feel when you walk away like, man, that was a rough conversation. I feel drained. Like we want to speak life into people. We want to be that positive person so people want to talk to us. And how are you interacting with the people that you're around? Now, if you're thinking everyone else is so positive and no, everyone's good around me, I would ask, do people feel that way about you? That is one of the things I want for myself is I want people to walk away feeling like, man, she supported me. She helped me. And I feel better walking away. And I hope that you want that for yourself too. So when you think about the people that you spend the most time with, do your core values align? Do they support you with your goals? Do you support them? Do you keep each other accountable? Do you guys have a growth mindset or are you fixed in your ways? I won't coach people. We don't invite people to our nutrition coaching and mentoring program if they don't have a growth mindset. If you're constantly having an excuse of why you can't do something, I don't want you to waste your time, money, resources, and invest in something that we're not going to help you make a change. I want to work with people that want to make a change, that want to get better. And that's one of the reasons why I started the private practice, right? When I was working in the hospital, it was a revolving door of people that had issues, had chronic disease over chronic disease. They didn't want to make a change, right? They were forced to talk to me because I was required to go in and talk to them about diabetes, but they didn't care. They didn't want to make a change. I want to work with people who have that mindset. If they want to make a change, they want to take control of their health. And if you're investing your time, energy, and resources, obviously you're investing your time right now. Like hopefully you have a growth mindset. You're not just listening to this, finding out, oh, she said this word wrong. She did this wrong. Instead, it's like, man, what can I take away and learn and start putting into action so I can stay accountable to myself? I can be consistent and start actually taking a step in the right direction to reverse and prevent chronic disease. So, time for you after this activity, think about who are you spending the most time with? Write those people down. Are they positive influences? And if you have an area of your life, and I'll give you this really good example. I set a goal for myself spiritually a couple years ago. And I was like, man, I want to grow my faith. All right. How can I grow my faith? No, my husband and I go to church, but out of our friend group that we had, I didn't have a ton of people that were like super far along, that were many steps ahead of me. But I did have someone, one of the pastors at our church that I was helping her with nutrition a little bit. And I was like, man, maybe I could work out with her. Maybe I could start going to coffee and we can just start connecting and I can start building a relationship and just walk alongside someone that's many steps ahead of me so that I can fast track my progress. I can get the support and accountability that I need. And I think we all need that in specific areas of our lives, right? So support system is a huge piece. This is something, the lifestyle piece is the piece of the puzzle that ties it all together. When we look at preventing and reversing chronic disease, it's not following a restrictive diet during the week and going ham on the weekends. It is not doing something during the week and then throwing out all habits on the weekend. It is, what is your lifestyle? Why are you doing this? There's a lot of research, and I'm going to go into that in a minute. So I'll talk about it, but there's a lot of research around your lifestyle and how it influences ultimately your ability to prevent and reverse chronic disease. But here's the deal. If we look at the weekend, it's 43% of the week. What so many times happens with so many of the people that we've worked with in the past when we do these discovery calls is people will tell us, I know what to do. I'm just not doing it. Okay. You need accountability and support. That's the key to our program. Well, I'm really good during the week, but Fridays I go off and then that turns into Saturday morning and then I'm already off Saturday morning. So I go off Saturday night and then brunch on Sunday and then Sunday night I'm back on track. 43% of your week is the weekend. If you are good during the week and you're counteracting all of that hard work on the weekend, what are you doing it for? If you want to see progress, we got to stay consistent. I'm not saying you have to go 100%. If you go out to eat, go out to eat. If you want to have a drink, but remember how alcohol impacts your sleep. Focus on drinks that are lower in sugar. Maybe you have a glass of wine, have a glass of water, then a glass of wine, then a glass of water. Slow down the amount of alcohol that you're drinking. If you're going out to eat and you want something, have it in moderation. We go to a local restaurant called Big Bear once a week. My husband and I, we go to Big Bear once a week, and that is a restaurant that we go to. I get the same thing there every single time. We have been there an unseen amount of times. I won't mention how many, but I've gotten the same thing there every time. I know I like it. It tastes really good. It's a salmon, blackened salmon. They have mashed cauliflower and they have broccoli. It's all delicious. I'm going out to eat. I'm enjoying. It's my favorite meal to eat out is this healthy meal. But can you not be satisfied but with a healthy option instead of over consuming on burgers, fries, and whatever else? Maybe, right? You got to find what works best for you. So let's talk about chronic disease. Okay, so genes, yes, play a part of it. Your environment, yes, plays a part of it. But what can you control? You can't really control your genes, your hereditary. You can't really control your age. We're all getting a year older every single year. But what we can control are these three things. Unhealthy diet, we control inactivity or activity, and we also control how if we're smoking tobacco use. These three controllable risk factors ultimately will drive how quickly or slowly you end up getting a chronic disease, preventable and reversible. So what can we do? We can focus on the modifiable risk factors. So what are those? Our diet, our exercise, and lack or not lack of smoking. All of those things will influence how our body is able to manage our blood sugar, our blood pressure, our blood lipids, and our BMI, body mass index. It's not the best indicator of health status, especially for our elite athletes, because it doesn't take into account muscle mass. It's just height versus weight. But for the majority of the population, it is a pretty decent indicator. I like to look at it compared to body fat percentage. If your body fat percentage is in a really good range and your BMI is a little bit high, okay, no problem. But we want to have a decent BMI that's within the normal range. So I want to tie all of this with a bow and leave you guys with something that I think is super interesting. So there was a study, and this study is actually linked in the workbook. So if you want to look at it and read it in detail, but they looked at over 100,000 people, 100,000 people. That's a lot of people. And what they looked at was for the people that were able to maintain a chronic disease-free life, what did these people have in common? What did these people have in common that were able to maintain a chronic disease-free life? There was 3 indicators that had the people that had these 3 things under control, 9 additional years. Now, these 9 years are not at the beginning of your life when you have the least amount of wisdom and freedom and control and things that you can do. They're at the end of your life when likely you're retired and you're able to enjoy life and be able to go explore and do different things. 9 extra additional years. What did these people do? Now, this is super interesting to me because if you think about the towards the end of your life, if you're able to live 9 extra chronic disease-free years, what would you do? What kind of impact could you have with all the wisdom you have? My husband and I were talking last night or the night before, and he's like, have you ever thought about like just sitting down with a 90-year-old and talking to them? Like how much wisdom they have, how much they've been through, all of these different things. And he started naming all this historical stuff. And I don't remember any of it. I'm not very good with history, but he's talking about like how much we could learn from those people. It's like, yeah, it's pretty interesting. But what's really interesting to me is what you could do to live 9 extra years that are chronic disease free. So let's talk about what were the indicators. So there was one indicator that was above all, the biggest indicator, and BMI, body mass index, your weight is the biggest indicator of living 9 extra chronic disease free years. The 3 things under that were all kind of in a row and about the same was activity. So daily movement, alcohol, how much alcohol you consume, and then smoking. Now, when we look at BMI, body mass index, and a healthy weight, what goes into that? Quality sleep, eating well, daily movement, support system, lifestyle, that holistic factor. If we look at what is the mission of Healthy Steps Nutrition? It is to help 1 million people take control of their health one step at a time so they can prevent and reverse chronic disease. How are we going to do that? Well, we need to address nutrition first and foremost. The biggest indicator of BMI and what's most influential is nutrition, but also sleep, stress management, support system are all the things, the lifestyle piece are all the things that are going to help you not only lose weight, but maintain it. So I think it's super interesting. If you want to look at this study, I think this study is absolutely incredible that we can literally pinpoint what you can do to prevent and reverse chronic disease. Like if you take anything away from today, like you're in control of your health and your life, and it's not too late to get started. We've helped so many people get off different types of medications, and it came down to eating more whole foods, balance, portion control, sleeping well, managing stress, having a good support system, creating a lifestyle that's not overbearing and restrictive. It's empowering and you want to do it, but it really comes down to having accountability and support. So super interesting. I wanted to leave you with that study if you like to read, or that's been one of your goals. I think it's an interesting thing to read. Highly recommend that you go and listen to the Nutrition Made Simple podcast that was released last week. I have a favor for you. If you listen to that podcast, if you listen to more than one episode, I would really love for you to take 1 minute and leave us a review. It really helps that podcast reach more people. So where are we at today? Well, we just finished day number 2, and I'm going to look in the Facebook group. So if you've been watching, type in the comments, let me know if you have any questions. But day number 2, we just wrapped it up talking about preventing, reversing chronic disease. I went through the Healthy Steps Nutrition framework so you guys can understand. The goal of why I went through that is for you to understand it's not just nutrition. Nutrition influences your mindset. Your mindset influences your nutrition. There is a lot of research around mental health and nutrition. And there's a psychologist, she also is a holistic nutritionist. She's got a PhD in quite a few different things. Her name is Dr. Nabdi Uma, and she was on the Nutrition Made Simple podcast as well. And we talked about mental health and nutrition. And I think this is an important topic. And we talked about processed foods and sugars causing people that have mental health issues to not get better, and things like a Mediterranean diet where you're focusing on more whole foods and omega-3s and things that are healthy options for us that promote brain health are helping people with mental health issues. So I think that's an interesting thing to think about. You know, the food that you eat is influencing how you think, but it's also influencing how you sleep. Now, I mentioned that we have the continuous blood glucose monitoring program. My husband and I did it for a while. And what was interesting to see is when we had different types of food at night, how it impacted our blood sugar all night long. And when we had higher carbohydrate meals, or we had dessert at night and we didn't go for a walk, our blood sugar stayed up all night long. Super interesting. So what could you do? One of the things that you could do is go for a 15-minute walk after you eat every single meal. It'll help stabilize your blood sugar. It'll help get your blood sugar under control, which, going to the topic for today, preventing and reversing chronic disease, 9 out of the 10 leading causes of death are related to uncontrolled blood sugar. Like, what if you just did that one thing, went for a walk, 15 minutes after dinner with your family. And during that walk, you asked everyone to say one thing that they're grateful for and one thing that they're looking forward to. It is something that we started implementing with our kids, to focus on the positive, to focus on the gate instead of the gap of where they want to go. Is tell me one thing that you're looking forward to tomorrow, and tell me one thing that you're really thankful for today. Tell me one thing that you're thankful for. Tell me one thing that you're looking forward to. Focusing on the positive is going to breed more positive. We always focus on the negative, we're going to see more negative. There's a lot of research around this. You know, it's the same thing if you get a car, right? Or you want a certain type of car. When you get that car, let's say you get a Jeep, all you can see now is all the Jeeps on the road. And suddenly, miraculously, after you get that Jeep, every Jeep is there's so many Jeeps on the road, but you never even noticed it. We pay attention to what we think about, and we think about negative things. Often we're going to be thinking about more negative things often. So we want to think about the positive. So day number 2, just a reminder, we did day number 1, setting goals that stick and how to do that in the different buckets of your life. Make sure that you download the template that I gave you. It is literally the exact template that I use to set all of my goals. Now, when we think about our goals, we just want to focus on one thing at a time. So focus on one habit at a time. Today, we talked about preventing and reversing chronic disease. Tomorrow, we're going to take a deeper dive into nutrition. We're also bringing on 2 of the sports dietitians on our team, Brittany and Lorraine, to talk and answer questions about sports nutrition. Then we're talking about 3 hacks to set yourself up for the best and healthiest version of yourself in 2023. Last day, day 5, we're going to tie it all together, talk about how to make health a way of life. I hope you really enjoyed today. If there's any questions that you guys have for me, please let me know. Georgette said, I started box breathing when I woke up during the night and found it to be super effective. I love that. I'm glad that you were able to try that and you found that super effective. Thank you for sharing, Georgette. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining. I will have this recording up in the Facebook group. If you have anyone that you think would be interested in joining this challenge, it's not too late. They can always watch the recordings. I'll put the link for them to register in the comments. And also, please do me a favor and leave us a Google or a review on Nutrition Made Simple if you're listening to that podcast. Hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you back tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We're back to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time the rest of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. See you tomorrow. Bye, guys.